Hi everyone, my name's Michelle with the Book Dragon, and today we have the honour of interviewing Hazel Goss, one of our authors. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed, Hazel.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to it.
And Hazel's going to talk to us about her books. So I'd like to start asking you, Hazel, can you give our readers a brief overview of your book, Forced to Flee?
Yes, Forced to Flee was the first book I wrote. I began it because I went on a course called Write a Book in a Year. And they said, well, you've got to have an idea. And I remembered a child coming into my primary school class, he's about 11, and he was a refugee from Kosovo. And I asked him about his experiences and did he want to tell me or the whole class? And he said, I'd like to tell everybody. And he told the class about how there was bombs and he was running down the street and everything was on fire. It was absolutely horrific. And I was shaken and the children were silent. So they must have all felt for him very much. Mm-hmm. So he became the subject of my book. And Kosovo was not in the news much when Yugoslavia in about 1990s began to disintegrate. It was all about Croatia and other bigger principalities, but Kosovo was so small that nobody really noticed until it got bombed that it was having a problem. And what the problem was that Serbia wanted to take it over. So everybody that didn't speak the Serbian language was then persecuted. And that's the story of two families that were persecuted because they were speaking Serbian language. I mean, they lived in Kosovo, and most people in Kosovo spoke both languages. But it was cruel, and it was a huge change because both of the men, both of the families, the fathers were well-respected doctors with good lives, lovely lovely flats and houses and homes and all sorts. And eventually they were both destitute and came to England. And the story ends with them in England in Leeds. So,
right. So do you have any personal experience of the conflict in this part of the world? I mean, obviously you've known the little boy in your class, but I was wondering if you've visited the place or anything.
I did visit Yugoslavia before the conflict, mm-hmm. And it was interesting because the people there, I was talking to sort of people that lived there, and they were saying that it was a very troubled time. Something big was going to happen, but nobody knew exactly what. And I was in Croatia at the time. And there was a lot of uncertainty and certain amount of, it felt tense, mm-hmm. when you started to talk to local people. And then, of course, it did become extremely tense as Serbia tried to take control of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've also got the Pathway series in stock at the Book Dragon, and I was wondering if you could share with our viewers the premise behind that.
Well, I'm a big fan of time travel. My favourite author is Diana Gabaldon, who wrote the Outlander series, which is not only superb books to read, but also has been on television and as a series. And the characters in that are wonderful, and the way they cope with suddenly finding themselves in a different era, a different way of life, was so fascinating that it made me want to do something similar. And so my Pathway series began not with people going up to a standing stone and touching it and going into the past, but finding a sand timer, which, if it was handled, could send you back in time. And then my imagination went on a bit after that onto the second book, where instead of going back in time, it sent you forwards. So you went into the future. And then it was, could you go back and change things that you didn't like where you were in the normal time? Now you're in the future. Could anything be done? could anything be done to stop something happening that everyone was worried about? So there were a lot of issues in going back and changing the past or going forward, and perhaps correcting things that might be a big problem later. So there was lots of issues in it and very interesting. And the third book, The Rocky Pathway, I called the main character Daniel, who's the name of my grandson. And I thoroughly enjoyed putting him into a really difficult position. I sent him back to Victorian times. And when his mother read the book, she said, I don't think Daniel could have coped as well as your character did.
Don't have quite the comforts of now, do they?
Yes. But somehow it helped to see him in this situation. So yes, it was fun to write that one. I think that was probably the one I enjoyed most. But all of them seem to be quite popular. You know, people do seem to enjoy reading them.
And has Daniel read the book himself?
Not yet, no. I think it might freak him out slightly.
Oh, well, it'd be interesting to see what he thinks when he gets around to it.
Who knows?
So do you have any other books planned, Hazel? And if so, could you share with us what they will be?
Well, I've actually written another one since I joined Book Dragon. I'll grab it.
Oh, brilliant, yeah.
There it goes. It's probably all back to front and upside down, but it says When Life Throws You a Lemon, and this is actually a memoir, completely different. No going backwards or forwards in time. It is a memoir.
Yeah, so that's about your own life, obviously.
Yes, I'm married to a man that became paraplegic when he was just in his 40s.
Right.
And it's how we carried on as best we could to have a really, really enjoyable life, despite having to have a wheelchair all the time. And it's a very uplifting book. There's no sort of, apart from the actual accident that happened, which obviously was very distressing. Apart from that, it's a series of stories, of anecdotes where things have gone wrong, sometimes hilariously wrong, sometimes awful wrong, but people are so wonderful, and they've always picked us up, sorted us out, helped, and made whatever was wrong right. And so it's more like a series of short stories, because they're incidents that happened. And it's, people tell me it's very enjoyable. One friend said, I've been to visit several of the places that you've been to because I just loved what you've written about them. So lovely. That's a really nice recommendation.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic, Hazel. Thank you for sharing that. And you can purchase Hazel's books from the Book Dragon shop at 6 West Row, Stockton-on-Tees, or from our website at the-bookdragon.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, Hazel. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.